We've got the questions. Right, so here we go. This is Reykjavik, I believe. Unless it's someone... Oh no, it's someone pretending to be Reykjavik on stage. Do you think Arsenal are destined to be the bridesmaids and never the bride? Or will they manage to break the curse? I think they're bridesmaids. 100% I think they're bridesmaids. I look at that roster and I look at the signings and the business they've done, and I don't see where they find the extra bit they need to get over the line and start winning major trophies like the Premier League again. I just don't see it. And I also, unrelated, I do want to say that I was 100% right about Kai Havertz likely being used as a striker. There was somebody posted on YouTube back when I was doing the football podcast, the Prem Review. They were going, "You're a fat dickhead and you should kill yourself because Kai Havertz is clearly only ever going to be employed as a number 8. And I was like, well, no, he's been used up top by Chelsea, and I'm sure they're going to factor that in. And lo and behold, he made multiple appearances as a striker. So, yeah, I was right about that one. Right again, of course. But, yeah, the Arsenal squad right now, it's what Roy Keane would say. I just think they lack character. I think they lack that guy who can take a game by the scruff of the neck and take a surefire loss and turn it into a win. They just don't have that. It certainly isn't Declan Rice. Declan Rice got fucking mega exposed against Spain. He was never it. And when you look at the midfield, if they signed Ivan Toney, I don't know if that even changes the picture all that much for them, because I think while it would be great if they had a proven goal scorer, a physical presence in there, because we all know Gabriel Jesus hasn't been the same player since he come back from his injury, and realistically a lot of the goals they're going to be relying on now are going to be coming from wide, with Martinelli and Saka, who are good for between 10 and 15 goals a season each. Odegaard also good for 10, 15 goals from the midfield. Maybe Havertz can continue his form and make a contribution, but I think they definitely need like a clinical striker. And I think they're fine defensively. Like, they're still going to be top 4 again. Like, no doubt about that. But there's a few little things. Like, they're going to have less options up front as well. Like, I think Nketiah was linked with Marseille today. And Nketiah's been wanting away for a while. I mean, Crumpets in the chat makes a good point. The Solanke to Spurs move for 60 mil, I know that was in the process of going through when I turned on the stream. I don't know if it's been finalised. But that's the exact kind of move that, you know, I think Solanke could have done a job at Arsenal for sure as well. So it's kind of like there's players out there that definitely improve the squad, and I don't know if Arsenal are buying them right now. So I don't know. Going to be very tough for them to win the league for sure. Very tough indeed. I think they could even conceivably be 3rd or 4th this year would be my pick. So no, they're still bridesmaids. I don't know. I think they had their window and they bottled it back. They bottled it in back-to-back years. As a Newcastle fan, I can identify. We did that twice as well and finished 2nd, and we never recovered from that. This is Otarian, I believe. On BTN, whenever Freakazoid came up, he was always referred to as a soldier or a player who was just willing to do whatever his IGL wanted him to do. What 5 players throughout CS history would you say fit that type of role? Oh, man, that's a tough one. The best soldiers. Well, first of all, let's go with at 5. Let's just put Sanji in there. I think Sanji absolutely has to be considered. This is a player who, while he might not have achieved much and might not have had the same level of notoriety as Freakazoid, what Sanji did do was play with a fucking SMG for the most of his career, just so James could guarantee an AWP. He was, guarantee that someone would have an AWP. I think certainly he fits that description. Anyone whose entire statistical output is destroyed by a tactical component, and they do it effectively, and they do it without complaint, that's definitely someone that you can say, yeah, That's a good teammate. So yeah, Sanji definitely in. Who else would I say? Let me think, man. Players that do fucking dirty work. Does this apply? I feel like Rain, I want to say, from FaZe, because I know it's not so much he doesn't get positions that he thrives in, but I do feel that he's moved around and evolved quite a lot despite having been on the FaZe roster and various iterations of the FaZe roster for a long, long time. He certainly fits that bill, just not necessarily in terms of output or what he does, but, you know, Carrigan has even said publicly, Rain's like the player I always want to play with. He seems to me to be someone that will, you know, I can always use as an IGL. And he is Mr. FaZe. And so, yeah, I put Rain on there. Going old school, I think Taco is a good shout. Taco, basically, he really did all the support work. I mean, look, it's a meme because people used to say, oh, it's bait Zera. Without Taco baiting for him, Cold Zera's stats went down. I don't think that's true, but I think there's an element of truth within it that what Taco was willing to sacrifice a lot, and he got a lot of stick for being bad. I will add, back when Taco was being criticised, he was peaking and losing duels, okay, and getting traded out, but he was losing the duel initially, and maybe that's because they're not favourable, but you have to win some of them, and he wasn't, and then obviously he went on that run where not only could he win the duels and put up good numbers, he was also doing all the dirty work, and they were like the best team in the world, and so that was back when people were calling him Vaco and accusing him of cheating. Said that he downloaded some cheats to get better because he was going to get cut from the team. Almost as if the cheating allegations are just, they're just fabricated based on who's good at the time. He definitely was a really selfless player, and that's why I always thought he would have made a good IGL. It's kind of a shame the way his career went. I see people in the chat are typing Stiko. I think Stiko definitely is that type of player. The question has to be around where Stiko's ceiling is to begin with. All the love in the world. Even if Stiko was on stream when we right now, he'd say, well, you know, I play that way because it does cover up some of the limitations of my play. But I'll add that back when Mouse Sports were working, before all the academy players came in and made them work again, but back in the day, Stiko was the glue. He was like the essential component that held that team together. And then I want to say, I feel like there's got to be a French representative in there. Anyway, in number one, for selfless players that do all of the dirty work in a team, it can't be Dead Fox. He was just shit. People keep saying Crims. Like, Crims didn't do that for Fnatic. Crims didn't do the dirty work. Crims was just the world's best anchor at the time. It's not the same. RPK neither too. No. There definitely has to be a French guy, but it isn't MBK, which would be the other natural choice, the Kingmaker. But it isn't him. There you go. Mosifa's done it. It's Keo. I'll put Keo in. Not as number one, but he's in the top 5. Keo was that guy for the French scene, which is why he came up and did the Mino Speaky and Glando back in 2015, nearly 10 years. Still hilarious that he did that. So yeah, I'm going to put Kiyoshima. I never believed in the concept of the support AWPer, which people tried to say with Skadoodle and Smiths. They would just ship AWPers, is the word. There is no such thing as a support AWPer. I don't care. I remember when we fucking gaslit ourselves into believing that for a few years. That was fun. So there you go. That's answered your question. Right, from MBS's Chainsaw Emporium asks, what has been a more effective sports washing venture for Saudi Arabia, their various esports tournaments, or the acquisition of Newcastle? Newcastle has actually kind of backfired a little bit, I want to say, because, first of all, there was all the initial problems in the purchasing of it, where they had to create a shell company and promise it was going to be distant. There was no more scrutinised team. Obviously, Man City just get Man City privilege. Newcastle, not so much. And we've been rightfully heavily scrutinised. I mean, the purchase should never have been allowed in the first place. There was no way. I mean, like, nearly again. The FA being completely complicit in helping them sports wash. And we just all accepted that. Seems fucking weird to me. that was allowed to happen, and it shouldn't have been allowed to happen. And they know it's a shell company and a layer of abstraction that's deliberately designed to obfuscate the Saudi Arabian ownership and money. But it's kind of backfired, because now we're scrutinizing the sponsorship deals. Because remember, what you do is, when you get bought by an oil company, an oil country, to get around financial fair play, you just give yourself a ridiculous sponsorship deal from a company you also own. See, the airlines at Man City and that kind of thing. And so now the FA is saying, well, we're keeping an eye on that if you're doing that. And this has drastically changed Newcastle's transfer market strategy, because I'm sure there was a moment in time we were just going to simply rock up and buy a bunch of super expensive players and overspend and go in for ridiculous things like Neymar and Mbappe and all this other bullshit. Now we've actually had quite a sensible, structured transfer policy, and it's worked very well for the club, even though I would say we massively overperformed to get 4th place in the first season after the buyout, and last season was more reflective of the team we actually are. I still think that they are doing a good job with that over there, but it's definitely brought sports washing into the front and centre of the discussion in the Premier League. And I think actually moving forward, there will be fewer teams that are going to be able to be bought by entities like Saudi Arabia as a result of the Newcastle thing. In fact, whenever Newcastle play now, there are like a handful of protests outside the ground. If people live in Newcastle, you know what I'm talking about. You go down near the Strawberry, you look and you see there's like scattering of small protesters, and like Geordies will be going up to them going, what the fuck do you care about it, like, man? Why are you fucking here? Eh? What? So we can't fucking have the fucking money now? Eh? Oh, it's alright when fucking Man City do it and that, like, but we cannot, like, is that what you're saying, like? And then, yeah, you're just a moron, unfortunately, and you don't even realise what people are protesting about. But yeah, that's something that goes on. So I'd say it's brought it into the spotlight more than anything. And I don't think it's been a particularly successful sports washing exercise because of all the attention it's got and how it's tilted the table towards the FA now being more closed off to the type of people that can buy football clubs. Compare that to esports, where you've brought the entire Dota community to be like, yeah, I don't care. I just want, the super woke fighting game scene. Yeah, I don't care. Wow, $1 million in prize money. So the esports washing has definitely worked, unfortunately, but the football washing, not so much. Tasty asks, are we going to get a breakdown of the NIP SEC filing for their IPO? I need to know how much stock I should buy, as it seems like a sound investment. Well, funny you should mention that. Let me get this. One of my colleagues, the one with the terrible font, sent me this. I've been monitoring this situation because I have to get round to writing an article about this guy, because he's just such a fucking risible figure in esports, and he won't go away. Imagine saying this, by the way. Today, the NIP group has gone public on NASDAQ. This is Jonas Gunderson, former NIP. What a ride it's been, and what a ride it will continue to be. Well, I left in March this year after 4.5 years at Ninjas in Pyjamas to start the Continuum X group. I remain a shareholder and couldn't be more thankful for the time and journey I got to be a part of, while still getting to be part of it going forward now as an investor rather than as a chief operating officer. Why aren't you the chief operating officer anymore, Jonas? Was there any reason for that? Any decisions that you might have made that might have led to that outcome? Anything? No? Oh, okay. I'm incredibly happy to see all the people there now ringing the bell, knowing all the hard work and dedication they put into this company for many, many years. They truly deserve the moment, and I'm sure the future looks incredibly bright for their vision and where they are heading. Taking part in an IPO is definitely one for the bucket lists for me. Right. Who says that? Who says things like that? Who says... bucket list. Climb Everest, visit Machu Picchu, do a parachute jump, take part in a fucking IPO. Just LinkedIn grifters, man. They're just on some other shit. Taking part in an IPO is definitely one for the bucket list for me, and the process has been incredibly exciting to be part of. I couldn't ask for a better start to embark on new ventures and building more cool things in esports. You haven't built anything cool. You ruined something that you didn't build that was cool. That's all you have to your name, Jonas. As the umbrella company to do so. Exciting times ahead and many exciting announcements coming up. An esports celebration day indeed. Let's go. Let's not. So yeah, I am monitoring it for sure, because it's just another rug pull bullshit cash grab made by a flailing org that has had to align itself with Saudi interests to stay alive. We know from their financial records they were hemorrhaging cash. So, we'll see. Next question. What is the trashiest book you've read and kept in your collection? It is unquestionably Bedroom Gangster by Big Herc, which you will remember from the Richard Lewis Show episode, Her Thumb-Sized Herc. I do own a book by Steven Seagal, which, hang on. Tell you what I'll do, I'll pick a bunch of shit books. Okay, I've got a pile of terrible books here that are all terrible for various reasons. Right, okay. For some reason, I have a sci-fi book called Conehead. I think I bought it just for the cover. I have no idea. I don't even think I've read this. What does it say on the back? Fleet Commander Alden Slater comes to Gothon to recuperate and found himself on the side of a minority in a full-scale civil rights battle. All he did was come to the defense of a pretty girl named Aldalfa, who happened to be a collie. And collies, the original human settlers of Gothon and worshippers of a god called Drom, had always been treated as slaves by the Terran representatives. Slater learned soon enough that he was making powerful enemies in the monolithic interplanetary development corps who ruled Gothon and wanted lands that the collies had sacred to Drom. But he couldn't understand why so much fuss was being made until he discovered that more than racial prejudice was involved and Drom was more than a myth. So in other words, that's really heavy-handed social commentary in a terrible sci-fi book called Conehead. So I don't know why I bought that, but I own that. Then, and this is pretty terrible. This is this is Ian Freeman, Ian the Machine Freeman's book, which is just called Cage Fighter, and it's as bad as it sounds. He was a beast back in the day. He ended up with doorman, Tom. He was a doorman I want to say in Sunderland, but he was working the doors somewhere, I'm pretty sure. Fucking nightmare. You wouldn't want to fuck with him. I always remember the fight he had, his dad had just died, and he went out and he fucking annihilated the guy he had to fight, and it's like just the worst. And then he's like crying afterwards in the ring, obviously. Just took all of his fucking anger out on the poor fella. Here we go. I'll read you what it says on the back. Hit me for. I'll do it in a Sunderland accent. Hit me fucking first, like that. Hit me. No, I can't do it. Hit me first, and that's when I turn psycho. Is what it says. I cracked him so hard that he fell against the wall behind him. That was the only thing that kept him up. He was so dazed that he turned to run away and ran straight into the wall. Meet Ian Freeman, otherwise known as The Machine. A friend to keep close and an enemy to steer clear of. Cross him and you will live to regret it. For Ian, violence is no glamorous profession. It's a way of life. Go on, I'll do it all. I'll do all the blurbs for these. At 18 years of age, Ian's everyday life was turned upside down and his destiny changed forever. One night, returning home from a night out with friends, he came across a gang of youths attacking another man, and he stepped in to help the victim. Ian's bravery was rewarded by the gang of bullies turning their fists on him. He was beaten to within an inch of his life, but through sheer determination managed to escape. From this point on, Ian became fighter rather than victim, and the Machine was born. As he grew stronger and fitter, he earned himself a reputation as a force to be reckoned with. Soon, he was running the doors of Sunderland's toughest nightclub with an iron fist. When the Freeman team was on the doors, the clubs had a no-trouble guarantee. But merely controlling his patch was not enough. Determined to be able to defend himself whatever the challenge, Ian quickly established himself as an unbeatable force in the fighting art of Vale Tudo, Portuguese for anything goes, and rose to be Britain's finest heavyweight mixed martial artist fighter. This is a gripping, boom, tale of one man's battle to win, having championed justice on his own doorstep, defeating bullies, drug dealers, and troublemakers. He has gone on to become a champion, both in name and nature. He is fucking hench though. Like, I don't know if you'll be able to see it this well, but this is like when he was a bodybuilder. And then there he is as a fucking heavyweight fighter. Fucking monster, like. So anyway, I've got loads of books like that I got from a previous life, if you like. I don't really consider this trashy. I like Irvine Welsh, not so much these days. But this is The Acid House, which got made into a film. And in it has a story about a guy who ends up getting turned into a fly. And he's a fly on the wall. And he has to watch his mother and father have sex while he's a fly. And anyway, there's this bit where it turns out they're into like really fucked up kinky stuff. And there's just this scene where the dad's lying down on the bed. I'm trying to find the exact page because it's fucking hilarious. The dad's lying down on the bed, and he's in the mother's over him, squatting over him, going, "You've been sleeping with that Madonna, haven't you? You dirty bastard. I'm going to punish you now." And he's going, "Oh no, don't shit in me mouth. Don't shit in me mouth." And like the son's like watching that as a fly on the wall. So that's just hilarious. They put that in the film. So whatever. Love Irvine Welsh. It's fine. We'll get the psycho stuff out the way. Because I write about politics and always have, I buy books that I really wish I didn't. Because sometimes you have to read what a loony thinks. You have to read like the Loonies book to get a handle on them. And so as a result, these are some of the most embarrassing books I own. This one, Ben Shapiro's Bullies, How the Left's Culture of Fear and Intimidation Silences Americans. I do own that. You can see it's mostly unread. I just was like, yeah, I'll see what Ben Shapiro's talking about today. Okay, yeah, I'm out. But then perhaps even crazier is Andrew Breitbart wrote a book and called, and look how fucking thick this is. Andrew Breitbart wrote a book called Hollywood Interrupted, and this is a book that basically it takes all of the tragedies that have happened in Hollywood where like kids have drowned in pools or found drugs in their parents' house and eaten the drugs and died, and he goes into all of them and makes a case. That's what this book, as you can see, it's called Hollywood Interrupted, Insanity Chic in Babylon, the case against celebrity. And I'll read you I'll tell you what the book's about, right? It basically is a case that celebrities shouldn't be allowed to have kids. That's what all of that is. Right? Mr. Libertarian Andrew Breitbart says the state should interfere with Hollywood celebrities. They just shouldn't be allowed to have kids, apparently. And if you look on the back, it's kind of funny because this has to be an ironic quote. I'll just show it to you. It's Jon Stewart. This is a fun book. Jon Stewart on The Daily Show. I'm guessing he did a fucking bit on it. Who else is on the back here? Here we go. This is a great book to read and a dangerous book to write. Breitbart and Ebner can hide in my basement when the powers that be in Hollywood put out a contract on them. Jonah Goldberg of National Review there. One of America's greatest industries has become one of the most destructive. Hollywood Interrupted describes the misogynist, pill-popping degenerates who now define American culture. That's Ann Coulter there. Ann Coulter, there she is. You see? Half Hollywood Babylon, half Book of Virtues. Breitbart and Ebner's juicy polemic does for Hollywood celebrities what Liar's Poker did for Wall Street investment bankers. Mickey Kaus of Slate magazine there, because Slate once upon a time was a same publication that published Hitchens, it's hard to believe. Hollywood is worse than you ever imagined, and Hollywood Interrupted pulls no punches. It would be depressing if it weren't so hilarious. That's Professor Glenn Reynolds of Instapundit.com. Guess they were running. We hit the bottom of the barrel on the quotes there. So Shapiro book and an Andrew Breitbart book. Listen, I own many a liberal book. You can see behind me, Harry Potter. It's too easy. Right. This is sometimes you hold on to relics of the past, and Craig Charles. Okay, Craig Charles was famous once. Craig Charles was famous not for doing a tin rig on the back seat of a car because he was jonesing for crack, although that did happen. Not for being accused of a sexual assault that actually does sound spurious. The case fell apart by her not being able to identify him. And anyway, he used to do Red Dwarf and all that other stuff. And so he wrote a book. He wrote a book called The Craig Charles Almanac. And I bought it. I assume it was aimed at kids. And he's got, okay, here we go. It's like pages of thoughts and sayings, right, and quotes, okay? I'll read you some of these. This is a good one. I like this. A Chinese proverb, apparently. If there's any Chinese people in the chat, do let me know if this is true. Says, if your enemy wrongs you, buy each of his children a drum. I like that. That's good. Idiot-proof systems are no match for system-proof idiots. Can't tell if that's profound or not. Anyway, I've always... My Chinese wife has never heard that before, right? Whatever. It's a good one. It's a banger. It also has facts. Stunning facts to boggle the mind is a chapter in this book. See if he's got any stunning facts. The national flag of Italy was designed by Napoleon Bonaparte. Is that true? It's true. And then, on the last page, it's just Craig Charles cross-dressing with a mate. So, just keeping that for reasons. This isn't cringe. I don't think it's cringe. I'm a big fan of Billy Connolly, and I followed Billy Connolly's career back when he was a singer, back when he was a folk singer, even before he got into comedy. I've got a bunch of cassettes he used to sell at his gigs, and a bunch of other stuff from way back in the day. And anyway, Billy Connolly had a book which was called Gullible's Travels, which also featured cartoons by the satirist Steve Bell. And it's quite obscure and quite rare. And it's basically a Billy Connolly travel log, and he has segments about his observations and stuff, about him traveling around the world. So this isn't cringe. This is fucking rad. There's Steve Bell's interpretation of the devil and God having an arm wrestling match. It's a wicked book. It's super hard to get hold of, but it was very formative in my childhood. So, but I keep it. And then, of course, Bedroom Gangster. Just another extract here. This is called This is Bedroom Gangster, the tagline, From the Hood to Hollywood. Come suck on my herc, baby, and make it nice and hard, he slurred, moving towards Laura as he stroked his semi-erect herc. I have another round in me too, homie, Prince voiced. He tugged on his meaty herc. Well, give it to me, ex-felon. We'll leave it there. So, we'll leave it there. But anyway, I love Big Herc. I love Big Herc. And I bought his book Bedroom Gangster. Sometimes you have to financially support people that produce content you enjoy. Which, just on that note, if you do have a Twitch Prime and you're enjoying learning about meaty Hercs, then it doesn't cost you anything. You can just throw a Twitch Prime in there and I get the equivalent. If it's even more than $2.50 now, it's like 70% of the $4.99 it would be. It doesn't automatically renew. If you haven't used yours for the month, you can give it to any content creator of your choice. There we go, see, Fulesh. He had a Prime the whole time, sat here with the Prime. There you are, all the Primers. So thank you very much. Right, anyway, all of which is to say that is a cross-section of the many terrible books that are on my shelf. There are more, there are worse. But there you go. Hopefully that answers the question effectively for you. Next up, you've talked about the process to make the perfect steak. What are your go-to sides with that steak? This is a real easy one. You don't overcomplicate a good steak by having complex sides. I don't understand a baked potato with a steak. I don't get that. Not for me. Never me. Which isn't to say potato doesn't have a place on the plate. I would probably say more than a gratin. Some people like potato gratin with their fucking steak. Again, it's a bit too much for me. Bit powerful. Mashed potato. Classic. You just want a good, creamy mash or fries. Either work, but I probably prefer the mash. Mashed potatoes and a steak. It's really good. You don't need to put any sauce on there or any gravy on it. You just make a nice, soft, creamy mash. Butter and the juices from the meat. The juicy herc, the juicy steak will do the rest. You will soak up all of the natural juices on the plate, which makes it a perfect accompaniment. And then, the other one for me, some people do like greens. I'm not adverse to that. Asparagus, again, kind of feels like we're going a bit too overboard. Maybe broccoli, kind of. I have seen that done, that nice, like, tender stem broccoli. Caramelized onions. Fuck, nothing green needs to be on my plate. Get me a big pile of really slow-cooked caramelized onions right next to my mash, right next to my big fucking steak. I'm done. I'm happy. I don't need anything more than that. No sauce, nothing. That is dinner. That is fucking good. So, you know, I'm just saying that, right? If it comes with greens, all right, you know. Fine, tender stem's good, asparagus is okay in a pinch. I've been to some places where they serve like traditional greens, like a green cabbage kind of thing with steak, which, what? I'm good, miss me. I love collard greens, but like, you know, in the South, you're having that with a chicken fried steak. That's different. Chicken fried steak, gravy, mashed potato, collard greens is a fucking banger. I'm just talking about a common steak here. But yeah, just slow cooked, caramelized onions, big pile of them, mashed potato, steak, done. Absolutely banging. That is all you need. The steak has to be the star, and if your sides are going to outshine it or add a bit too much potency or dilute it, because like I think with greens, even when you cook them a certain way, they've got a lot of water in them naturally, it can kind of like dilute the flavors a little bit as you're eating. Yeah, no place on my plate. Onions and potatoes. That's the one. Quick question. Top 5 rappers. You've seen them. The rappers. Now I'm going to read Asher D. I'm going to read his biography, which I also bought. No, that's Stuart Lee, not me. Top 5 rappers. This is like a super hard one because you have to put the greats in there. If you don't put the greats in there, then it isn't a top 5 objectively. So yeah, DDK. No. No, the ones that I think that are obviously going to be on there are... I had this argument with a friend recently. They don't put Biggie in their top 5. Kind of feel like you have to, personally. But it's hard. I mean, also as well, it's like you can't ignore Eminem. So he has to go in there, right? And then you can't ignore Tupac. It's like I just feel like all the spaces are taken up by objective greatness, regardless of whether or not you have personal preferences. Like, I'll say this, I don't put Jay-Z in. He doesn't get in my top 5, and I know he makes it in a lot of people's. He doesn't get in mine. I'd be more inclined to put, like, Nas ahead of him. Kendrick, obviously. So It's just a shame because there ain't no room for any flex on it. You want to put other people in there and in say they're in that company, but if it's just 5 spaces, you can't. And it's like there's too much objective greatness that's already occupied the slots. You know, it's like saying like DMX isn't gonna get in. That's a shame, you know. And then you get into groups, and it's like, well, we all know what we listen to. I'm listening to fucking 3 6 Mafia every day. So, well, what? They're dead. So most of them are dead. So I guess that's fine. So yeah, you end up having this like real difficult thing where it's like, what is your favorite might not be the objective best. And I think in hip hop and rap, I think the objective best is pretty much decided upon bar 1 or 2 names. There will always be arguments about like who is 6th. That's where it is. Like who doesn't get in the top 5. That's kind of more remarkable. But then the ones that don't get in the top 5 are the ones that are like knocking on the door and stuff like that, you know. So it's like sleeper picks, super tough. Because I don't rate the ones that some people do. Like, I don't rate Kanye West. I don't rate Drake. I you know, they don't do it for me. They never have. That's not what I'm signing up for when I want to listen to a rap song. Right? Whereas like something like Andre 3000 is slept on for sure. So it's like 50 Cent's grown on me a lot. I would never put him top 10 because I'm not, you know, because I still have objective taste. But as a person, he's grown on me a lot as well. And yeah, you know, if they were still doing good work, obviously DMX is dead. But like if anyone out of the if Jizza, I mean like fucking Bobby Digital is fucking insane. The RZA. There's just so much good stuff, man. It's like, what do? You know? There's just no room for it in the top 5. Put it this way. The people who are in the top five that I know are in the top 5, I don't really listen to a lot anymore. It's because it's like overplayed because it's in the top 5. Probably the only one I listen to. I listened to the new Eminem album. I didn't like it all that much. It's probably only Kendrick. I mean, you know, how many more times? The problem with being dead is you don't make any more shit. This happened to me with Nirvana. When you're dead and you don't record, like, you need to be dead like Tupac and still have 40 albums come out. Like, you need to be dead like Tupac's dead and still making shit. Because if you're dead and you're not making shit, then the shit that's left, your fans tunnel in, they listen to it, they overplay it, and then you don't want to hear the songs anymore. Like, fucking, I can't listen to Nirvana anymore. Certainly not Nevermind. That is done. That is dead. You know, that was like a time and a place. You got to be dead like Tupac, man. And just be like, oh, we found another album. What's Machiavelli? I'm still alive. Like the fucking Dave Chappelle sketch. Where he's like just talking about shit that happened yesterday. And everyone's like, what the fuck? You need to be dead like that. Fucking ridiculous. So, yeah. But Kendrick's obviously like fucking killing it. And I'm not even going to talk about the feud with Drake and all that stuff, which, by the way, if you think Drake won that, I would sort of question your taste quite extensively. But regardless, I think just musically, I think his albums have all been fucking so good and continue to be good. And he continues to develop. So, you know, barring some sort of tragedy that we had for 2 people in the top 5, then, you know, we'll see. We will see. But yeah, that's kind of... top 5, unfortunately, is just like... it's almost like set in stone. You can't really do anything with it. Zumba, what is your ideal... food questions today. What is your ideal hamburger? You know what? The secret to a good burger, mate, is simplicity. 100%. I've eaten burgers all over the world. I've eaten expensive burgers. I've eaten burgers in, like... You know, I've had fucking wanky Michelin star deconstructions of burgers where the plate is the bun and, you know, fucking just nonsense like that. I've eaten in, you know, all the best burger bars in the South, in Vegas, in LA. You know, it's just like, I've tried so many different iterations, and the reality is, you just can't get better than a toasted bun a little bit of burger sauce, just to kind of give you just a little bit of moisture. Most of the moisture should come from the fat of the burger and the grease off the cheese. Bish bosh. There you go. That's it. A good burger doesn't need more. And you know what? Yeah, just as a point, brioche, nah, it's too sweet. I don't want that. Don't give me a brioche. I want an old school burger bun. Doesn't even need the sesame seeds. Now, you can put some stuff on that. I don't. I find, again, you get into this weird fucked up territory. Like, I don't know why lettuce became the norm on a burger. It's just water. I don't want that there. Tomato, no place on a burger. Like, what the fuck? Like, they're just watery, slimy. It just fucks it up. You can have onion, fried onion. You can do that. But that's it. But I wouldn't even say that. I wouldn't even put it there. I think bacon is too much. That's just American excess. I remember a time we didn't put bacon on burgers, guys. You know, it's how old I am. I remember when bacon on a burger was like the Baconator from when. What? We can do that? We can fucking do that? We can put fucking bacon on burgers? We could have been doing that the whole time, and Americans then started going, well, what else can we put on a burger? Hash browns, onion rings, bacon, another burger. It's like pickles. You know, I don't mind pickles. I don't mind burger pickles. But I would rather have a pickle as like on a side, not in the burger. I'd rather have it on the side and you eat it afterwards. A little palate cleanser. Get the, you know. It's like, Jesus. Yeah, eggs. Eggs, you know, fried egg. You know, well, yeah, everything's better with a fried egg on it. But, you know, like, it's just got no place there, you know? It's crazy. So, yeah, just simplicity, man. Like, you just have high-quality meat. Put it this way. I'll say this as well. I know when you're making burger patties from mince, and what they do in America is they say, do you want it rare or whatever? And, you know, you're not a pussy, so you say, yeah. But then, obviously, we know that rare mince is dangerous. It is dangerous. But I've eaten it rare. I've eaten rare burgers all the time I lived in America. Never had a single solitary fucking problem. Never so much as a dicky tummy. Never affected me. Never had diarrhea. Never had sickness. Nothing. Just been living like that. Probably got mad cow's disease, but whatever. That's fine. Take that. Could run for president. So yeah, that's it. The ideal burger is just a really nice, high quality patty made from high quality meat. And again, I'll say this. All of these Wagyu burgers, no. You don't need that neither. That's a waste of Wagyu. Don't do it. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. Putting fucking Wagyu in fucking burgers. They're doing it. They're real. They're real things. Wagyu burgers. Yeah, it's grotesque. High quality patty, slice of classic American cheese that melts like American cheese melts. Toasted bun. Bit of burger sauce with your classic mayo ketchup combo. Just a little bit. Just a knife. Run through. That's me. That's me. Like, much like the steak, you want the burger to be the star of the show. Right, next up, Marcus. Except for whiskey and margaritas, is there any other liquor or cocktail you're currently extra interested in? Now, listen, I am a functional alcoholic, so I'm interested in all of it, all of the time. I love liquor. It's the best. Being drunk is the best. Drinking is the best. Hangovers are not the best, but the good thing about hangovers are you can drink your way out of a hangover. It's perfect. It's the perfect solution. Drink responsibly, of course. So what else do I like? I mean, shit, man. I'm trying to think if there's any, like, stealth sleeper picks of things that I drink. Because obviously I drink whiskey, you know, most days. Glass of scotch most days. Glass of bourbon most days. Never really a fan of tequila, but I do like margaritas. Because margaritas, for me, are the quintessential cocktail you have on a hot day. When I think of margaritas, I think about being by the pool, you know, with the budgie smugglers on and my gut hanging over it, looking like Ray Winston in Sexy Beast, except more repulsive and pale. Women coming out to the pool, recoiling in horror, going away, leaving me to order another margarita. Bosh. That's what I think of when I think of margaritas. I love margaritas. So, I'm going to say rum. I'm a secret rum man. I don't like all you pussies in chat drinking daiquiris. Get out. Go. Oh, Bloody Marys are too obvious. They're just a hangover cure in a glass. Put it this way, there's only a handful of things that have ever worked for a hangover for me. One is a Bloody Mary, a spicy Bloody Mary. The other is pickle juice. But rum is there's so many variants to it. And I'll say this, kind of like a lot of whiskeys, unlike, maybe I don't have the palate for it. I can tell when a vodka is expensive, but there's a shut-off point. Like, once I'm drinking the £80 vodka, the £800 vodka doesn't make any difference. When I'm drinking a whiskey, the £80 whiskey and the £800 whiskey are very different. And I feel that rum is somewhere in between that. Like, I've had some very expensive rums, and you go like, fucking hell, this has got some complexity and some depth, and there's some spices in there and some flavors, and ooh, are those molasses, and what's going on? And it's a really interesting drop. And then when you've had cheap rum, like Lamb's, which was what my grandfather grew up on, and what he was rationed in the Navy, and the first rum I ever tasted, and it put me off, swore me off rum for life. But because I loved my granddad, every time I went round, he'd be like, do you want a tot of rum? And he would get it out of these, he would get out these fucking, in the Navy in Britain, you would get these little metal cups, and you would carry it around on your belt, and it would be for your rum tot, your rum ration. My granddad kept his, and he would get it out, and he'd be like a tot of rum for him before bed, and he'd give me a tot of rum before bed as well. In fact, hang on, I'm gonna show you something. I'll be right back. Can't find the bastard thing. I bought a steel rum top cup from a bar in Vienna that sells them. There's a rum bar, and they make their own. And we went there, and the story of the bar is they were like founded by like sailors, and it was a bar for sailors. I bought basically they sell their own Navy style steel cups. And I bought one for €18. Yeah, that's the thing. Sailors in Austria right now. What's the bar called? I can't remember the name of it. It isn't Morgan's. But anyway, it's I saw that they were selling these little steel top mugs, and I was like, fuck, I'm going to get committed to drinking more rum, and I'm going to buy one of them. So I bought one. I was hoping to show it to you, and I can't now. So sorry. But yeah, rum. Rum is the answer. Rum is, it can be in sweet, fruity cocktails. It can be quite potent and pungent. You can get Jamaican overproof rum, which is unbelievable. Blow your fucking lips off. Fucking super strong head-wrecking gear. You can get, like, mulled and spiced rums, which are, like, almost like Christmas in a cup. Rum's got a lot going for it, man. So, yeah, I'm a rum guy. I'm a rummy. So, I'm in on rum. Carv, what are your views on the Austin comedy scene? And are there any comedians in the Rogan sphere that you would recommend? So, obviously, I study a lot of stand-up comedy. I'm a failed stand-up. And it's kind of hard because I don't know what I would want to include in as being part of the Rogan sphere. For those who don't know, Rogan's new comedy club is called the Comedy Mothership. Has 2 rooms in it that are named after the atomic bombs. So it's like, what is it, like Fat Boy and Little Man? And this has made Joe Rogan like kind of a kingmaker to comedy in the region. And obviously via the mechanism, Fat Man and Little Boy, there you go, whatever. Fat Boy and Little Man, I don't know. I can't remember. Who wants to remember that terrible day? But anyway, and that's where they do that Kill Tony thing from, I believe. And obviously with the podcast as well, he's helped a lot of comedians break out with an accelerated schedule by putting them over to his audience, and we've had a number of, I think, good comedians come out of it. I will say the best thing to happen out of this new wave of Rogan-approved comics is it's made Bert Kreischer go away. And thank the fucking Lord. And Bert Kreischer, he's like Jack Black to me. He's just one of those risible, pathetic figures that I can't understand why anyone ever thought he was funny in the first place. Like, back before he was oversaturated and everywhere, he wasn't funny. That very obviously made-up story about how he ingratiated himself to the Russian mafia by being a fat drunk is ridiculous and clearly an over-exaggeration. In reality, he probably met some mobsters that had a few drinks with him on a train and then they went their separate ways. You know, it's playing into this American tradition of fat equals funny, which, fat and drunk equals funnier. And let's be real, out of all the fat, funny men America have produced, where's Bert Kreischer on that list? Is he even top 50? His material is whack. Every time he's on other people's material, he's insufferable. He talks too much. He talks about himself too fucking much. Just actually dreadful. And it's good that ultimately Bert Kreischer is featuring less and less, and other funnier comedians are featuring more and more. Now, these aren't Rogan produced, but I think the ones I like most out of kind of the new wave, and it's not accurate to describe them as a new wave, but I'll say Mark Normand, who he's been around a while. Like, I think he recorded his first special in like 2014, but he's got a lot sharper. His material's got a lot more. And he's really emerged as, I think, someone that's going to have a very good career. He's like 40 now. He's got a long time ahead of him, and he's very much in his groove. And he's great when he's on the Joe Rogan podcast. And I think he's played the Joe Rogan Club and done a few nights down there. But as I said, he's been, I think he's written on like Saturday Night Live, and I think he's been in some like TV shows and stuff. So I like him. I think he's good. He's got a bright future ahead of him. But you already know about him probably. Then I would say the other one you probably know about them is Stavros Halkias. It's incredible to think, by the way, that fat bald guy is like, he's like 7 years younger than me or something. But anyway, he's like really, really funny. And what I love about him is he's one of the best. He's one of the best crowd workers I've seen in a long time. Like, you know, there are like a lot of people go, "Oh, Jimmy Carr's so good at working the crowd." No, he takes a heckle and then does a mum joke. That's not going to work for me. I think Jimmy Carr's a very overrated comedian. I think, you know, it's almost getting to Al Murray cringe levels with Jimmy Carr, where people are just, or Ricky Gervais, people are just going there to be shocked. Like, oh, look, oh my God. I think Jimmy Carr's weak sauce. And whereas if you watch Stavros work a crowd, like whatever they say, he spins into really good material. And Stavros released a special, which is just 30 minutes of crowd work. That's the balls to do that. That's fucking crazy. That's like crazy. That's like something a madman does. Like that. And every time I've seen him work a crowd, seen the YouTube clips, seen his specials, seen his bits, he is so good at getting to a funny place so quickly with whatever you throw at him. That is a switched on comedian. That is a guy who's done the terrible open mics and the drunken fucking comedy sellers and all that stuff. You can tell. He can walk into a lion's den. And yeah, he used to do the Come Town podcast, that's right. And that's in that environment, yeah. It's a lot of, you know, crosstalk and everything else. So, I mean, listen, you know who he is, but I think he's got a bright future. And as I said, I think he's like 36. 35. he looks like he's a lot older, but he isn't, and he's really good. I really like him. So I'm trying to think of an obscure comedian that is a Rogan pushed production that is going to maybe have a breakout or is maybe worth your attention. I'd probably say Sean Patton. When I look at comedians that are coming up, you have to look at the tool. Sean Patton is like this guy who he looks like Mick Foley. And so, again, you get this sense he's like older and been around a bit longer and stuff. Joe Rogan's been doing a big push on Sean Patton. I think he's down at the club next month. He's going to be headlining up there. And Sean Patton, for me, feels he's almost close to getting it. To it clicking, because he has the material and he has the delivery, but the problem he's got is he's got two types of material and they don't marry. He's got observational humor, right, which is pretty much, you know, I know Stuart Lee very derisory about observational humor, but you know, he finds like a common experience that you can relate to, and he makes it funny in a way that feels real to you, and you laugh at that. You know, he's got material like that. Remember when, right? But he's also got he's got a bit about Andrew Dice Clay having dementia on stage, and you have to know Andrew Dice Clay's terrible act to know why this is funny. and he's doing the Andrew Dice Clay bit, and then so it's like, Little Miss Muffet sat on a tuffet. Who is she, right? And that's absurdist humor. And so if you do observational, and you go, oh, I'm coming along for that, and then you throw in an absurd comedy. Like, here's Andrew Dice Clay with dementia. Those two things are so incongruous that your set doesn't work. That's the problem I see. He needs to write more. Unfortunately, he needs to pick a lane. With comedy, it's never enough. This is what a lot of like up-and-coming comedians don't ever get. It's not enough to just write funny stuff. If you're doing a 5-minute set, you might get away with just saying 3 or 4 funny things. If you're doing a 10-minute set or more, once you get to like 10, 20 minutes, your shit's got to mesh. It's got to flow. Even your non-sequiturs have to kind of be connected in some coherent way. Or the audience, it's just going to be too jarring for the audience. Your topics have to be relatively in a wheelhouse. And yeah, look, I'm not going to mention Shane Gillis. I think Shane Gillis is mainstream now. I don't think I like Shane Gillis, by the way. I think he's funny. I like that that he is kind of bringing edgelord comedy back a little bit. He's always couching it. One of the things I love about Shane Gillis's delivery is as he's doing his material, there's almost like a little cheeky, he's testing the audience with it. He's testing the audience, and seeing whether or not they're going to come along for the ride. And I get the impression that if they're not, he isn't going to. Whereas before, and he's told stories about this on podcasts, he would like just happily bomb by just saying outrageous things. He's actually now got enough material and enough wherewithal where he can dial it down. He can find out where in the room he needs to be. Like, obviously, if you got to kill Tony, you can be outrageous, He's like saying the spicy F word. The Donald Trump Biden special was fucking fantastic. It's like the funniest episode of Kill Tony. I was like, his Trump impression is ridiculous, just in general. But to say Shane Gillis is a cop-out because, like, yeah, much like Tim Dillon, these guys are mainstream. They play stadiums. They play clubs. They're booked up all the time. They're on TV. You can't really say that they're a product of Joe. Again, I believe Joe Rogan's accelerated their inevitable mainstream acceptance, but these guys already had careers. So Cam Patterson, yeah, not really for me. Yeah, I think if I was just picking one that I would say, like, watch out for, it's definitely Sean Patton. I like, trying to think if there's any others that I think are worth your attention that I haven't already said. But yeah, I always keep an eye out for what's going on with comedy because it's like I say, it's something I always wanted to do, and I love the history of it and all of that stuff. But yeah, I feel like Sean Patton's probably going to be like the next guy, like in 2025 or whatever, that people are like, oh, have you seen this guy? He's really good. He's really funny because he's so close to getting his shit together, and he's got, like, it's like I say, he's got uniquely funny material in the world of the absurd and the world of the real, but you just can't put them together. He hasn't found a way to make it work yet. Yeah. See, I don't talk about Tom Segura. I don't have a problem with Tom Segura. I think he's funny, but I don't rate his specials. I definitely prefer him in a podcast environment. Let's just be grateful that Joe Rogan gave Pauly Shore a comeback. Let's just be grateful about that. Is Ari Shaffir less funny than Bert? Ari Shaffir is just a waste of talent. In the 90s, dude, he was legit fucking funny. Go watch some of his stuff. Ari Shaffir used to be an outrageous stand-up. He was, like, actually funny. But now, he just ran out of shit, and I think he's a bit of a druggie. And now he is essentially, propped up right by the other comedians because of what he did back in the day. Comedians have a tendency to look after, look after their own. You have to. Like, they don't let them fall through the cracks. Everyone's an enabler. It's why it always ends one or two ways. Well, there's 3 ways. You can have a really good career where you're funny all the time and you die and you're fondly remembered, but I feel like that's like the rarest outcome for comedians. The other one is you get sober and get super unfunny. or your material just stinks, or you become a drunken mess and your material goes off the rails and you die young. So pretty much it. Yeah, Patrice. Shit, he would be cleaning up right now. Can you imagine Patrice O'Neill doing material about fucking Biden and Trump, man? Can you even imagine how fucking riotously funny that would be? Listen, I'm Doug Stanhope's biggest fan. Before Turning the Gun on Himself is one of my favourite comedy specials. But unfortunately, he has fallen off. Doug Stanhope admits he's fallen off. He's fallen off. He's out of shit. And he says he's out of shit. We all remember the Sweden invented the stinkless pussy fucking bit where he literally says, I'm out of shit. I used to have material and this is what I'm talking about now. The funniest Stanhope has been in a long time was in Beer Hall Putsch, and it's the story about when they give the lethal dose of pain pills to his mother. It's that story he tells, which I'll take him at face value. He's a crazy motherfucker. I believe it's true. And they waited until the statute of limitations so they could talk about it. And he's waking her up and go, Mama, we got the cure. After she's took the lethal dose of painkillers and she's like in and out of consciousness. That is fucking riotously funny, but it's the funniest he's been in about a decade. So, go watch Beer Hall Putsch. It's got two really good bits in it. The bit about Jake LaMotta, meeting Jake LaMotta, the boxer, and how like his brain is just atrophied, and the only thing that can make him comply is like putting a cigarette in his mouth. And the bit with the mercy killing of his own mother. Those bits are fantastic. That's fantastic material. Anyway, next, what are your favorite comedy movies, TV shows, and are there any recent ones among them? What have I watched lately that's really funny? Eastbound and Down is just a go-to. I fucking love Eastbound and Down. I don't know if that actor is fucking doing it too much now with that one character. But because we've had the Righteous Gemstones, But Danny McBride. But I Kenny Powers is fucking great as a comedic invention, and the whole story arc, the writing, the supporting characters, like Eastbound and Down is like one of the funniest fucking shows. I tried to get into that one with that motherfucking guy from The Simpsons, the voice actor, and he's a baseball commentator who his wife cheats on him and he has a breakdown. What's that called? I tried to get into that and it just wasn't quite funny enough, but I did watch it for like a season. There's like 4 seasons of it or something. Everyone tells me to watch Ted Lasso. That's more a recommendation from my American friends. Yeah, Brock Meyer is the baseball one. I will never watch Ted Lasso. I think I'll go to my grave having never watched that. I have no interest in it. It looks like fucking Cheeks. Looks like Cheeks warmed up. I'm good. Real good. But no, recently, not much. Veep remains pretty fucking imperious. Nathan For You. These are great shows, but again, you already know they're great shows. No, Always Sunny in Philadelphia is the most overrated comedy of all time. People who like it are low IQ. It's Friends for edgelords. Sorry. That's what it is. It's not contrarian. I've never liked it. I've watched it. When you get 3 seasons into a comedy, you can see every joke coming, and it fails to make you crack a smile. And for some reason, I thought the season they did without Danny DeVito is the best season. The first season. Once Danny DeVito comes in, it's like, here's Danny DeVito naked again. Oh, great. The punchline is Danny DeVito is physically repulsive and he's doing something sexual. Cool. All right. Yeah, really good. Yeah, you're doing it for me. So no, it's terrible. It's like one of those comedies where I think it wouldn't have been successful if comedy hadn't have become so fucking like sterile the last like 10 years, because it was kind of like the last holdout for like edgy comedy, and so people were there and it's like, oh look what he's doing, they're making jokes and it's like slightly racist and weird. Never for me. So yeah, there you go. Right, next. Is J.D. Vance banned from DFS, or is that just a lie made up by Globo Homo to try and discredit the good, honest Republican ticket? Well, I am going to be doing an episode well, not an episode, it'll be part of an episode about all the JD Vance criticisms and kind of like, where is this line? I mean, so the couch fucking thing is funny. It's hilarious, obviously. And also the Tim Waltz pick, Mr. Stolen Valor himself. They made up a meme about him having his stomach pumped after drinking horse semen. That's the counter meme that got put out. Less subtle. But that all started just because somebody tweeted it and all shitlibs wanted it to be true. And so, anyway, I've got the whole canon, the chronology of it all. It just it's what I mean. It's just like, how can I pull for either party? Like, they're all just clowns. Like, the American political landscape is an embarrassment to the country. Even your independent candidates have, like, fucking brainworms and are killing bears. Just I don't know, guys. Maybe the Republic deserves to fall and you need to rebuild. I don't know. Where are we at? Where are we at with this? When are you gonna fix your politics? Like, but no, they won't. Okay, well, gives me something to write and talk about, I guess. It's fucking crazy. They have literally nothing on Waltz. I don't think you're paying attention, mate. They've definitely got stuff on Waltz. I think Stolen Valor is a bit of a problem. I think the fact that he's objectively lied about his service record, I mean, there is. There 100% is. There 100% is things on Waltz. It certainly was Stolen Valor. I see you're leaning, I have noticed politically you are moving more into getting into that anti-Trump territory, so you start making excuses for things lefty politicians are doing. But absolutely did steal valor. By claiming he was part of an operation. He wasn't. I'm not talking about the failure to deploy. I'm talking about getting up in front of people and saying I was deployed and I was part of this operation. That's a problem. He hosted in the past a radical Islamist cleric who's pro-Hitler. Probably not great. I feel if we had a journalistic class that was a little bit curious about what Dems were doing, that would be a story, but I guess it's not Nick Fuentes, so fine. What else did he do? See, I haven't got round to the Tim Waltz segment of Belly of the Beast yet. It's all been happening so quick. The Stolen Valor is definitely going to be an issue. I mean, it's not going to go away. They've already had to... what didn't help as well was they also put out some military-themed merch, I think, for the Waltz Harris ticket. I don't care about the tampons thing. I don't care about that. That is brainworm fodder. So, you know, but yeah, there's definitely stuff on Tim Waltz. I mean, not to mention just his record, which is probably a bit further left than what a centre-right Dem ticket would ordinarily put on. So it's got camo on it. I think put it this way, if I'm Tim Waltz, strategically, I would stay away from the military thing because the only thing positive JD Vance has for him, because he was only in office for 1 year, would be he did serve in the Marines and he was deployed to a combat zone, right? I would just stay away from it. Just don't mention it. But anyway, the couch fucking thing is interesting because it was one of those things where all of the fact-checking organizations, they couldn't wait to fact-check this obvious lie, which came from one tweet from somebody with no followers. And they wanted to fact-check it because they wanted to spread it, like the Riley Reid meme, and fucking get it out there to as many people as possible. Associated Press. I never said he saw combat. I said he deployed to a combat zone. No, that is the distinction. There is a distinction there. He deployed to a combat zone, right? Didn't say he was out there fucking Rambo machine gunning people. Said he deployed to a combat zone. Tim Waltz is the one saying he carried weapons of war in a combat zone. I'm not saying Vance did that, because Vance, as far as I could tell, he was out there for administrative purposes, like a lot of politicians who go out to the military. But regardless, when you if deploying to a combat zone doesn't mean you served, then okay, well, I got some bad news about Beau Biden and the imaginary burn pit cancer. So, you know, we can play the game, but it's this classic double standard with the capital D. That's what we're going to do. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say if you deploy to a combat zone, you don't have to go around popping people in the head to be recognized. If you say if you say you were part of an operation, you weren't, to the point where the military are calling you out for lying and misrepresenting your service, I think that's a problem. I think that's stolen valor. So anyway, yeah, the Jenny Vance stuff with the couch is kind of stupid, and obviously it's stupid for a variety of reasons. And of course, like every other rake that's been laid on the floor, they've really walked into it like they have with the, Kamala Harris deliberately like changing her accent, and then people going, oh, Trump goes and sits in front of a room full of black journalists and says Kamala Harris isn't black. She was always Indian, and now she's black. She suddenly turned black. That's the quote, by the way. So yeah, it's this campaign's been an absolute disaster for the Republican ticket. And as I said, if the election happens today, they lose. And I don't think it's even close. Jester says, what's the most disappointing game you've ever played? And when will Anders come out of the DMT dungeon to record the Hell in a Cell commentary? Well, Anders is in the chat now. He could literally be recording. He could be recording the Hell in a Cell right now. He could have been doing it now. He could be here with me right now, recording it right now. So, Anders, we got a hell of a show tonight, the main event. It's Richard Lewis is here. The big man's in the room, Anders.
Match. Making his way to the ring from Swansea.
We could be doing it, but he's out there looking after his kids. Yeah. Anyway, so what's the most disappointing game I've ever played? It's a toss-up between Fallout 4, Diablo 3... Better than Fallout 4, is it, though? You couldn't even play it on day one. Mind you couldn't play on release either, really. They were both terrible. I'm trying to think if there's anything that's close to, like, the personal disappointment I felt. I love Diablo 2. I don't know if it was just game design had changed fundamentally, but Diablo 3 was such a mindless experience. It was so shit and boring when you finally got online. And even though you spent that ridiculous error, whatever number it was. But, I don't know. It seems to me to be tough. Like, yeah, I'm probably going to go with Fallout 4. Fallout 4 was really... The story was so shit. It was the final... It broke the spell. It broke the Bethesda spell for me. Like, I'll never buy Bethesda Fallout. I'll never buy Bethesda. I am going to play Fallout London for sure. But yeah, I didn't buy Starfield. I really thought I was going to cave and buy it, but I haven't. And I feel totally justified. I feel so glad I didn't waste like 60 quid or whatever it was on that. For me, it's just like, I don't know. In games that are all about story, if you can't write, we've got problems. And Fallout 4 was just terrible. I've already done videos where I rewrite the storyline and how much better it would be. Fallout 4 is probably the personally biggest disappointment because it's like my favorite franchise. But Diablo 3 was ridiculous. So, right, this one. Are there any small yet valuable stories from your childhood that could be a good learning experience or lesson for the people unfortunate enough to be in similar positions today? Right, well, things I learned as a child. Don't make it dark. I'll say this. One thing I definitely felt as I got older was that as a child, you have a conceptualization of your grandparents as just being like lovable old people and lovable old people that give you money and or treats and or let you do things your parents won't let you do. And basically that is just who they are. It's just the way the childhood mind works that you kind of like put people into a hierarchy, and you end up kind of like you end up inadvertently neglecting their presence, right? It's not your fault, you're a kid, but as I got older and older and older, the thing that I really regretted was that I wasn't kind of more mentally equipped as a kid to have learnt more about their lives and their experiences and their thoughts and their beliefs and the things they went through. And so I guess one thing I would say is if you are lucky enough to get to a position where you're an adult or a young adult and your grandparents are still around, don't treat them like a liability to go around and see them. That, yes, they're diminished versions of themselves by the time you're old enough to appreciate them as an adult that's led a life. But often in there will be the last vestiges of kind of some important knowledge that you will forever be untethered from is when they pass. And it's good to take that opportunity and listen to what they have to say, and you'll be surprised. Yes, often they revert to very childlike versions of themselves. My grandmother had tantrums that would make an 8-year-old blush towards the end, but she was a mean, tough old bitch anyway. She was a fucking nurse in the war and a landlady of a working men's club and stuff. So, but I would have liked to have picked their brains more. I mean, I have a handful of memories of anything close to adult experiences, and talking about the war with my granddad, and then finding out after he passed he hadn't claimed all of his medals and all this other stuff. We found a bunch of crazy shit out about him after the fact, after he passed. And it was kind of like, I wish I could have just been a little bit older, actually. I wish I could have just been a little bit older. I was just a bit too young. I could have had an adult. If he'd lived like 3-4 years more, I could have had an adult conversation with him, or a vaguely adult conversation with him, but I never got to. So if you get that chance, don't pass it up, because there'll be days. Let's say realistically, conservatively, you're 18 or 20 and your grandparents like in their 70s or 80s, and they're going to check out. One day you're getting the call. And, it's the peak of your life. It's sunny outside, fucking that person you want to sleep with is calling you up. Let's go get some fucking drinks. There's a pool party over here. There's this, there's that. You want to go out, and this nightclub's opening. Let's go check it out. This band's playing over there. Just take some time. One day. Like, that actually sticks around for longer than you would think. We live longer now in general. Arrested development's a very real thing. I was still fucking partying like I was fucking 20 when I was like 34. So just shelve a few of those days so you can go around and spend some time with them. Also, I'll say this, it's very lonely being old, There's fewer, sadder places on planet Earth than old people's homes. Like, fuck me. One of my exes used to be a carer, and occasionally go and do the rounds with her, and it would just be like really fucking sad, really sad. These people are so desperate for attention and conversations. Their own families only see them begrudgingly, reluctantly every weekend. Generally, people are just left in either a room or in a shared area, staring out a window. It's like, imagine being so grateful for a conversation with a total stranger. So, yeah, I mean, your grandparents, even if they're well looked after, even if they're not in a home, even if they're quite spry and fit and capable of looking after themselves, they really do appreciate it. They really appreciate the attention and the time and the consideration. And somewhere in that, there will be a lesson. You want to know what your parents were like when they were kids? There's only realistically 2 people that can tell you that. If you want to know about what it was like in a time you're not even going to be able to conceive or never going to be able to visit, no, it's only a couple of people in your life that can fucking tell you about that. So, go ask, find out, learn, broaden your horizons. Might give you a renewed appreciation on the here and the now. Maybe things aren't so bad. Maybe things aren't so shit. Might be the perfect antidote to fucking doom scrolling on social media all day. Who knows? So that would be it. If I could go back, and have an evening with my granddad, if I could resurrect him, somewhat cruelly, for one day. If I could resurrect the grandfather on my mother's side for one day and then be like, sorry, Grandpa, you are going back to the void after this, but you're in for a day. Can we talk about some real shit now? Get the rum out? Yeah? Catch up? I'd definitely do that. So, right, we're getting towards the end. What is your Renaissance decade for horror movies? Right, the Renaissance. Interesting. So, there's several golden eras. I guess you can't have several golden eras. You have like a golden era and a silver era and a fucking bronze era and a platinum era. But there's loads of great eras for horror. With probably, I think the 70s is kind of weak. I think a lot of people have lost their appetite. Post-war is great because everyone's fucked up. And, everyone's fucked up and miserable after the war. You know, everyone's got fucking PTSD and horror stories, and naturally, like horrors. I say this all the time, and I said it again on the episode of Foreplay we recorded, which spoiler, we record them in advance, and we're ahead of the curve. We're already onto our next arc, but I say it on my pick for the spit roast segment, which is 1974's The Beast Must Die, and I said, like, you know, listen, horror is the genre you go to if you want to know about societal zeitgeist at any moment in time historically. It's the one where you see what people were afraid of, what people's like anxieties were. Sometimes even the bad horror movies, when they don't work, what were people trying to say? What were they alluding to? What were they getting at? What trends happened? You know, like, for example, it's not a coincidence that at the exact same time everyone has a camera. We have anxieties about surveillance footage, right? We're being filmed everywhere. Now everyone has a camera in the pocket. The rise of the internet, people uploading. Well, that's the same time that there's a fucking resurgence of found footage horror. Yeah, these things aren't coincidental, you know? And so even when you think you're watching like throwaway garbage, it's throwaway garbage that is made for a reason, even if the artist doesn't even understand why they're creating it that particular way. And so I would say I think the 70s are particularly weak because everyone was having a pretty good time. There's some excellent 70s horror, but I would say a lot of it is reboots, a lot of it is gender swapping because everyone was trying to be like liberal and a bit more peace and loving and women's rights movement. This is when you actually get Hammer Horror producing stuff like Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde and Sister Dracula and stuff like this. But the 70s was a weak era, and it sort of had a lull. And then we come out swinging in the 80s. Kind of, it wasn't just action movies that really had a resurgence in the 80s. Obviously, America was so back. Reaganomics, cocaine was being imported into the country at an unprecedented rate, and up until the Len Bias incident, people didn't even have a stigma about it. It was just something that you pulled out and did at parties, and this obviously infused the action genre, and you got some fucking fantastic movies as a result. But horror itself had the renaissance. It so needed the renaissance that it got. And I'm trying to think, if I had to pick out like best horrors in the 80s, I mean, it's a wild time. You've got Nightmare on Elm Street. That's a quintessential 80s horror bounce back. A fantastic. The ending's garbage for the first movie, but it's the quintessential 80s horror. High concept. It's a fucking, it's a pedophile that was burnt alive by angry parents. I mean, it's very reflective, again, of the times, right? We had this slight resurgence of the Christian right and the idea of, like, no child left behind, and what's the educational system doing to our kids, and we need to have God in our schools, and there was the satanic panic and the pedophilia panic, and so obviously here we go, boom, we get a horror movie which is about a pedophile janitor in a school being burnt alive and him coming back into the dreams of the kids. I shouldn't have said boom there, all things considered. He coming into the dreams of the kids and haunting them, and he's able to kill them in their dreams. That's fantastic, right? What a fantastic high concept. Shame about the ending, because they tacked on some garbage sequel bait instead of just letting it sit. What else do we have? Christine, 83. Christine, fantastic, really slept on horror movie about a boy in a car, and actually it's one of the best Stephen King adaptations in terms of how true it is to the novel. It's really underrated, but again, think about it. It's about a boy attaining a sign of shining, glorious red capitalism. The car, the perfect car for the kid, that rite of passage that you can go through now thanks to Reaganomics. And so Christine, it's about a guy who gets this fucking, what was it, Plymouth Fury, insane car, And the car, he wants to use the car as a vector to date girls. The car is itself possessed by a girl. It gets jealous. There's some kind of feminist and then simultaneously misogynist segments in it. It's great. It's a very perfect 80s film. What else? I don't think it's a good movie, but Children of the Corn, while we're talking Stephen King, that was another kind of almost like resurgence that could only happen in the 80s. This was the other side of the paradigm. It represented fears of youth uprising and indeed what would happen if the religious right was essentially left to get out of control. Yep, great shout in the chat. Videodrome. People's tastes for media becoming more and more extreme. What is television doing to us? What is it doing to all of us? And here it is. We end up with Videodrome, about a sleazy TV producer who's trying to hunt down a snuff channel. And it gives him a brain tumor, or does it? Or did he have a brain tumor the whole time? It's Cronenberg's one of the best movies. You have the super slept on George Romero Day of the Dead, 85, a classic. I mean, almost as pessimistic as the original Night of the Living Dead, right? It shows humanity can't be saved, a cure isn't happening. The zombies, if anything, are going to evolve and get cleverer, and they're going to learn, but we're not. We can't get along. We are doomed. We are a doomed species, and the planet belongs to the fucking zombies now, right? So when you consider some of the weak sauce shit that was coming out in the 70s, which, you know, there's some good ones, obviously, I genuinely think 80s horror is like, that's the Renaissance period. That's when we were so back after, you know, Hammer, classic in the 50s, excellent in the 60s, Amicus, the experimental wild men who created so many brilliant portmanteaus, just a ton of really good stuff coming out. And then obviously you get to the 80s, you know, and it's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. So I definitely think that the lull in the 70s and then all the societal things that were happening in the 80s just gave birth to these movies, which I thought at the time, you know, being a child of the 80s, I thought, looking back, these were all very silly. In retrospect, these are classics, you know, and these really push the envelope. So many of those movies hold up so well to this day. For me, that's the Renaissance, in the fact that that is when we did come back, when we were so back. Right, that's it. The Patreon stream is done.